I've done my best and my worst, learned my lessons. No matter how hard my life would treat me, I'd always get right back up, never worry. 'Cause I got a million reasons to keep holding on. Yeah, I got all that it takes to win and overcome. What I got is just a feeling, but it's oh so strong. It goes on and on, on and on. There's something going on inside of me. I feel it growing stronger every beat. I never just believe in what I see, 'cause I can feel the energy, energy. Cause I can feel the energy, energy. I've met my demons one too many times. They taught me lows are what makes you feel so high. No matter how far my mind would wander, I'd always dare it to go even farther. 'Cause I got a million reasons to keep holding on. Yeah, I got all that it takes to win and overcome. What I got is just a feeling, but it's oh so strong. It goes on and on, on and on. There's something going on inside of me. I feel it growing stronger every beat. I never just believe in what I see, 'cause I can feel the energy, energy, energy. I can feel it, I can feel it. 'Cause I can feel the energy, energy. Oh, I can feel it, I feel it, yeah. Oh, I believe it, yeah. There's something going on inside of me. I feel it growing stronger every beat. I never just believe in what I see, 'cause I can feel the energy, energy. I can feel it, I feel it. Oh, 'cause I can feel the energy, energy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Green Live. It's a great pleasure to welcome you once again. Hello, Carlos. Hello, Stamatia. Hello, Adriana. How are you doing today?
We're doing great. Thank you, Pedro.
All good.
Hello, Samadhi, Ariana.
Wonderful. So today,
Hello.
today we have a very interesting episode of the Green Live. As you know, some of you know, last week SAP hosted an amazing event called the Sustainability Summit. It was 2 days, very packed agendas, where they covered in the day one climate action and in the day two circular economy. And there were so many announcements, great information, a huge combination of experts from SAP, but more than that, experts from the market, customers, companies that are actually super active in that space. So for both of you, have you been there? Have you watched everything, or there are still some to watch?
I watched everything twice, and you're guilty for that, because we were preparing for this session to wrap it up for the people that didn't have the opportunity to watch it all. So yes.
Wonderful. Well, I think it will be super worthwhile for us to do that here, and a lot of people will actually benefit from that. So before we deep dive into this, I want to show everybody. I'm sharing here on my screen the website where you can find the Sustainability Summit. Even though it's over, you can sign in and watch the replays. So as you go through the website, and we're gonna leave the link for you in the description. So if you are registered, you can go back there, for instance, with your email that you have registered before. and you can get access to that. If you're not registered yet, it's simple. You will basically go and get your registration to watch everything and see a replay of that. So it's really easy for everybody to access that. So Carlos, maybe we can kick off and we go through some of those sessions. We have, nearly 1 hour to cover everything. Maybe we don't finish everything today. We have the next week to finish it all. But can you tell us why they have put the Sustainability Summit together? What was the reason of this event? Can you walk us through that?
Yes, and I think the best way to do it is just covering the first session. The name of the session says it all. It's enabling tomorrow starts today. Let me just reflect on that for a second. There are a few things that help us talking about tomorrow. And when I say tomorrow, 2030, 2050, if you think about your life, how many things in your life you consider to talk about those dates 2030, 2050? So when I'm talking about 10 years ahead or 20 or 30 years ahead, and I think it's a great thing that our concern for climate change and for sustainability help us think in the long term. um, think about it, how many things in your daily life help you think long term. When traveling in the Middle East, I'm always surprised how many countries in the Middle East are very good at that. They have a 2030 plan or, different kinds of plans. We are not that good in Europe to think long term. And sustainability help us doing that. And the title of the presentation and of the opening session was enabling tomorrow starts today. Now, I've talked about tomorrow, what it means. That now let's talk about today. Whatever we want to do in the long term, we need to start doing it now. And I think we were so lucky at SAP because, believe it or not, one of the main products that we are using to help our customers address the compliance, the regulations issues around climate change, it's called PAPM, is a product that was not destined to be used for sustainability, but had all the right features, all the right functionalities, and the right mindset to be used for sustainability because it's around cost allocation, which is very similar to the things that we do in GHG emission reporting, on scope 1, 2, and 3 reporting. So today means that we need to start our journey now. And I think we have privilege and lucky to have a portfolio for our customers that we can act on today with PAPM. But after talking about tomorrow and today, in this first session, something big was announced. And the big announcement was that we were going to present three brand new solutions on top of what I just mentioned during this event. The first of those solutions is called SAP Product Footprint Management. I think the name says it all. It helps you understand what is the footprint of the products that you produce. The second one is corporate steering and reporting, corporate sustainability steering and reporting. And that is very critical to understand that it's not only about compliance and reporting, but it's also about steering your processes. And that's why we're embedding sustainability more and more into the processes of your operations. And the third announcement was we're also launching a product for circular economy, which is called RDP. So these three products were announced. And last but not least, we also mentioned in this first session that we cannot do this on our own. We need to do this in collaboration with many different partners. And I think this sustainability topics is awakening very different partnerships. One of them, of course, we mentioned the work that we were doing with Accenture, and we will analyze that later today in a different session. But also that we are now part of the World Business Council for Sustainability, WBCSD. It is very important that we understand that we are just one more player in this big role that sustainability has to play. So that's all from my side. That was the opening. And my takeaway is what is tomorrow, what is today, and we're here to bridge that gap between tomorrow and today.
Fantastic. So I have an idea, Carlos. Why don't we go through some of those sessions? And I'm sure, all of us have done our homework and we are here ready to share the key highlights, some lowlights, and the main takeaways of those sessions. Perhaps we go through some of them and we help our people to really have a glimpse. But if you want to know in details, you will have to go and watch the replay. Adriana, shall we start with you? One of the sessions was climate action in partnership, very much in line with what Carlos was mentioning right now. And the focus there was collaborating across boundaries. Can you share some of the highlights of that session with us, Adriana?
That's right. And the name says it all. Climate action is a challenge for all of us, and we need to collaborate across boundaries to handle that. So businesses need to act today and to step up and take transformative action, collaborating across boundaries. This means across industries boundaries, but not only. Using emerging technologies, collaborating closely with regulators, with governments, with standard bodies. And we had there our head of industries, Peter Meyer, to talk about that. We had there Regulate for Solution Management and GTM, but not only, also had World Business Council for Sustainable Development and also CDSB, Climate Disclosure Standard Board, and also customer NG. So they were really discussing how we can collaborate and break these boundaries, because this is a game of network, like Carlos was saying as well. Because in the end, if you look at it, emissions, the most important emissions, the highest emissions are coming from scope 3 emissions, which are coming from all the value chain. So it's not only a single company, it's the entire value chain. So all of us need to collaborate in order to do that. And there was also an announcement, an interesting announcement from the World Business Council regarding the value chain carbon transparency pathfinder. We also joined that initiative. And this pathfinder enables widespread exchange of carbon emission data. So this is focused on scope 3 emissions. And the purpose there is for all the companies to share data on scope 3, because what is my scope 1 and 2 is scope 3 for other companies. So if we all share that data, we can work together to improve our value chain emissions and reduce emissions in general worldwide. That was my main takeaway and highlight.
Fantastic.
Adriana, that's just to say once more, as we have said in previous episodes, that sustainability reporting is a network game. Whatever is a scope 3 for you, it's a scope 1 and 2 for others. And this value chain transparency pathfinder underlines not only this exchange of data between other parties, but also to clarify what is the methodology to calculate and allocate those emissions to every player. Right? It was also an important takeaway from me.
Well, from my side, guys, I want to bring the next session that is super complementary to that, because if we are doing a partnership, what do we bring to the table? And one of the sessions was product perspectives. This is the big moment of the day where SAP came with the climate action, with the SAP sustainability management. It was a fantastic session. It started with an understanding of what are the challenges that the executives are facing with sustainability. There were 3 challenges that were shared in that session. I highly recommend you to go back there to see that. But basically, starting from the 3rd one was the difficulty to prove return on investment. This is the 3rd concern of the main executives. The 2nd one was an unclear to all of them how the potential actions would align with strategy. And finally, and I think the compelling reason why SAP is making a lot of investments here, it's very unclear to executives how to embed sustainability into business processes and IT systems. And right here, Gunther, and I know, Carlos, you met Gunther. I want you to talk about your conversations with him. But what he did for me was very interesting. He was telling everybody this hurdle of building softwares, as the first step to develop a software is to understand the challenges and barriers of the customers and address that in a meaningful way. At that point, Preeti, who is the head of the Climate 21 initiative, came on stage and she actually announced the SAP product footprint management. It was like a super important moment where finally SAP demonstrates how they will make this possibility of embedding sustainability across business processes and IT systems. So that session itself for me was amazing, and they spoke about some of the plans for release. It's about Q3. Of course, this is not set in stone, but overall, it was a great session. I think the major takeaway here that I find is that the best is yet to come during Sapphire now. So they will probably make a super wow launch during Sapphire of all those concepts. It's a major opportunity for SAP to work with content providers. And just as a low light, I expected more about Echo Invent, which they announced to be the first partner to share some of those sustainability data points, secondary data that complements that big picture. And also they spoke about the priorities. That's an important takeaway for us here. Some of the priorities like S4HANA data, the carbon content that will come mostly from the Echo Invent partnership. They're focusing on the raw materials moving into others later on. And also in terms of integration, they're going to integrate with source to pay and finance. And here, Carlos, I want also to hear your opinion because it's a great vision, but sounds like a long time to have all those pieces together. And you mentioned in the beginning of the call about profitability and performance management, which is a very solid, mature product that is very powerful and can help today. Can you give a little bit more clarification on that and some of the speed as to all these will come together?
Sure. And once again, let's look at the title, at the words, because they say a lot. Product footprint management. Why product and not service footprint management? Well, that talks about the roadmap. We are starting with understanding the footprint of products, and then we will evolve to understand the footprint of services too. So if you're a services company, you are part of the roadmap of PFM, footprint management. But let's look into footprint. What does it mean, footprint? Is that the carbon footprint, or the water footprint, or the land usage footprint? That also talk about the roadmap of this effort, of this product that was launched, PFM, product footprint management. We start with carbon, but we are gonna also touch on all those areas that are part of your footprint. So you said it very well, Pedro. It is a journey. It is a journey that we're starting from products and from carbon, and that will evolve. And what you have in front of you is also how this product footprint management is connected to different systems. Whether on the left-hand side you have primary data and also secondary data. You mentioned EcoVadis. EcoVadis is an LCA provider. LCA stands for Life Cycle Analysis. So basically, what it gives you is data on what is the footprints of many different materials or many different steps in the consumption process. That is secondary data. That's the blue part that you have at the beginning. But then you have to be able to make sure that you have more content to have the end-to-end view of what is the footprint of your products, and so forth and so on. So I think in this session that we invite you to look at, Preeti gave us a very good view of all the different steps and what can we expect from this announcement.
Fantastic.
If I can add something here, I think what is also very interesting is that at the end of this process, after doing the data collection, adding secondary data, do the assessment and the analysis, we also integrate back this data into all our processes, like in finance, source to pay, plan to produce, lead to cash, idea to market. So this product footprint can be used in all the processes in a seamless way, which I think it's a great topic.
And
It's a
also
great
one
topic and
more
it connects
comment.
with the steering. Go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry. One more comment is that this product will be ready on Q3 2021.
Correct.
Very
It's
good,
around the
very good.
corner.
Around the corner. And Stamatia, since you are, mentioning that, one of the sessions there also was like a deep dive with a customer, and they spoke about emission management best practices. Can you cover that for us?
Yes, of course. It was a discussion with the RI Magnesita company, and they just shared their experience. This is a company in the energy sector, and they shared their experience on the emissions management. So what they mentioned was that they had the chance to have an overview of CO2 emissions on a monthly and daily basis. They achieved some accuracy in the calculations. They find this solution easy, integrations from other systems, even from Excel files. It is a user-friendly solution. Many users can connect it, and also gives a CO2 emissions on product level.
Great, great. And Carlos, another session there was about this, third-party data, and all the possibility of having data-driven partnerships to change climate change. Can you comment on that as well?
Yeah, so basically in this session we had both EcoInvent and Bearing Point, and it's very easy to understand that we do need data, primary and secondary data. Primary are those data that you can find within the boundaries of your organization. Secondary data, you have to go outside of your organization and fetch them. As I just mentioned, EcoInvent is this life cycle assessment database. But many times people that they think they have information just on raw materials, whether that's chemicals or agriculture, they do much more than that. They also have data on the manufacturing processes, on the logistics and trading, even in the final use and recycling process. So you can find a lot of information there. Hopefully you have also internal information that you can add to the process, but while you mature your own information, you can use also these databases as a benchmark. So for example, you're calculating your scope 1 and 2, and you want to see if those numbers are right or wrong. You can compare them with these kind of databases. By the way, believe it or not, sometimes when we visit our customers, we together discovered that mainly the scope 3 emissions calculation that they have done are completely off mark. So EcoInvent, it's a great partner for secondary data, and that's why we selected them, and we're partnering with them. They have been in the market for decades. They have an incredible inventory, and that's why they are called EcoInvent. Once more, words speak louder than anything else. And then Bearing Point, they have this emission calculator as a service. And again, it's a great source of secondary data for PFM. So product footprint management can drink from EcoInvent or can drink from Bearing Point's emission calculator as a service, or from many other sources to really put in place this system of sustainability accounting, because that's what we are doing. We are now combining the traditional financial accounting with the sustainability accounting. That was the session. Very good session. Recommended.
Wonderful. Great. Another session that was quite interesting as well was a session with Volkswagen. They talk about the role of digital in the decarbonization of manufacturing. Adriana, what happened in that session?
Yes, thank you, Pedro. So, by the way, Volkswagen means cars for people in German, yeah? And behind Volkswagen brand, they're also behind Audi, Porsche, Seat, Skoda, but also trucks and buses, yeah? So they help us move around in general. And therefore, sustainable mobility is very important for them. It needs to be safe, it needs to be accessible for many people, intelligent, and to inspire and fulfilling people needs, most importantly. Decarbonization is a very important topic for them as well, and they aim at being carbon neutral by 2050. And they are one of the first car manufacturers to commit to achieve that goal by 2050. They imagine that they sell over 10 million cars every year plus trucks. So this is a great opportunity for them. They are basically responsible for 1% of the global CO2 emissions, considering all the life cycle for passenger cars, which is like 400 or 450 million tons per year. So what they look at is how they can transform all their portfolio and work alongside the life cycle with their customers, with their providers, look at electrification, use green energy, but also digitalization and intelligent technologies to improve their processes and reduce emissions. Another important topic for them, like I said, is sustainable mobility, but not only, also circular economy, which, by the way, we'll talk more in a next session about that. And they are looking there at electrification again, second life of batteries, how they can reuse materials and components. But not only, it's important not only the environment, but also the society, and keep the workforce safe and trained for future needs, ensuring, of course, labor conditions and ethics. That were my main takeaways from Volkswagen. And we had also another session with BMW CFO, and I know Carlos wants to add some comments on that.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Great.
No, I was just going to ask you, Adriana, if you knew that in producing an electric car, we use much more CO2 than in producing a conventional car. So that is what is called embedded CO2. And the footprint in an electric car is much larger, much larger. Yeah. And that's why when we analyze that session with BMW, it's very important to understand what the makers are doing in this regard. And I think they're doing a lot.
Great.
Yeah, but here we should look like we were saying at the whole life cycle, and also the recyclability and reusing of those components, which come with advantages, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, and they see that not only as an opportunity to be greener, but as an opportunity to save a lot of money. If you use a lot of recycled parts, they are looking at that as an incredible saving opportunity, which is great in the green world, by the way, that we look not only for the compliance, but for the efficiencies and finally for the innovation. But efficiencies are critical.
Wonderful. Well, the next session then will make all of us really excited because they managed to put together Shell and Cemex. And as you can imagine, cement and oil and gas accounts for a huge portion of carbon emissions. As a matter of fact, cement industry, if it was a country, would be the third emitter in the world, right? So imagine talking to them about a transition to zero carbon business model. So I really enjoyed that session. I felt like the challenge that was given to them was very interesting to put their transition strategy in one page. So if you go to that session, you will have one slide page that gives the Cemex and the Shell strategy all together for you to have an understanding of what these big organizations are doing to get there. And the role of the executives there was so important. They are the ones making the bridge and accelerating action towards the decarbonization strategy. They are steering that forward, right? And what they try to position to the audience there was a strong commitment to the Paris Agreement, really trying to demonstrate that they have plans to get to 2050 net zero. What was very curious in that conversation was the argument about shifting everything from the supply to the demand. So they have a demand side approach to understand customers' need. And as you can imagine, the whole idea of Qualtrics and having that understanding of customers would be very important for them to get there. Specifically Shell, when they were mentioning that, and the lady from Shell was Charlotte, she was mentioning about this huge challenge they have on scope 3 emission. Basically 90% of Shell's emissions come from scope 3, and that's all generated with the use of their products at the end use of their products, and also the emissions generated from the supply chain, right? So they really see a huge need there to work on emission 3 in a much more effective way. And for me, the takeaways, guys, was pretty much, that, they're trying to be in this, inflection point as a business, trying to look forward, step back to look forward and understand what really means to get there to a net zero environment. This super big scope that they have on, changing in a systemic way. So I think that was super remarkable, and that the business model for them to be successful require a customer-centric approach, right? So if you go to that session, you will understand why Shell and CMEX, how they can achieve a net zero. It was a great session. Unfortunately, it was too short. I think that there was like really the need for more in that session. What are your comments, guys?
I agree,
I would
Pedro. I
just think
think we talk all the time about plastics, about oil, and things like that, but we don't realize that cement is all over the place, and it's actually contributing a lot to the GHG emissions, like you mentioned. So, great topic.
So true. Carlos, you're mentioning?
Oh yeah, I mean, there are long-term objectives and there are long-term companies. So those companies that have been around, like the two that you mentioned or SAP, they have been around now for decades, have learned to look ahead, well ahead, 5, 10 years ahead, and that is the kind of commitments and the kind of thinking that we have to have combined with the short-term actions. um, so yeah, I think
Yep.
it's good to hear them. There's also in this Bill Gates book, he talks a lot about cement and about green cement, and we need the subsidies, and we need to make sure that public institutions, the governments also invest in green cement, because as you said, it's too important to miss it.
Absolutely. And I think it's a great connection to the session that you were mentioning before, the sustainability as a CFO imperative. I really like that, the board member CFO of SAP, Luca Mucci, came together with the CFO of BMW. And honestly, it was mind blowing to me, hearing that session as well. I want you to comment on that. But just one big remark that I have here is when the CFO from BMW came and said that they're, investments in sustainability today is giving them the ticket for success in 5 years. That acknowledgement was for me a huge remark of how important it is for the success of organizations, the investment of sustainability, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, but today in order to future proof the business. What were your views there?
Well, the quote that I wrote down when I was hearing is, "We will not be in business in 5 years if we don't act on sustainability today." Not only for success, but to be accepted by people and also by a mature consumer like the German consumer or their consumers worldwide. And there are three dimensions that they're tackling, which I think are very important, very probably very similar to what Volkswagen is doing, as Adriana was mentioning. First, it is they have to reduce the CO2 that they produce in the production process. As I mentioned, it is very important, even more important in the electric cars. The second one is the circularity of their processes. How can they reuse? So more and more they're gonna buy, you know, cars that are at end of life, and they're going to recycle more and more parts. There's a huge business opportunity for anyone that wants to start dealing with what we consider trash, but needs to be reused. Very important lines of businesses. So for you that are listening and I wanna look for business opportunities, I think this is a whole new world that we have to explore. And the third dimension is, they don't want to do this on their own. They want to make sure that their supplier network, tier 1, 2, and 3, so really the whole supply network, really goes in the same direction of circularity, reusability, cost constriction. There are some things in sustainability that are more effective, that are more less costly, and there are some other things that need investments. And for that, you need to save money somewhere else, and this is where in this circularity where they're going to find the resources. So I think the last thing that I want to mention is one of my favorite leaders at SAP is our CFO, Luka Mucic, and he was also doubling down on the important to connect the sustainability KPIs with the financial KPIs. But he said we need standards. We have been testing the water, and we have done something bespoke for SAP, connecting our sustainability with our financial performance. But this was just for us. Now with the value balancing app, what we're doing is try to create some standards that are useful for regulators and useful for other companies to combine those worlds.
Well, that's absolutely true. And again, there are so many pearls in that session, right? One of the things that the CFO said of BMW, electrification is not nice to have. It will ensure the license to operate, just corroborating to what you just said right now. And I found it very interesting as well, Luca Mucci really emphasizing the need of combination of this, non-financial with financial KPIs as a front runner of integrated report. So maybe some of you could speak about integrated report and why organizations are going into the direction of making that a thing to their reporting cycle.
So I can take that together with Stamatia on how we can integrate monetary impact valuation into decision making. So I also Carlos mentioned, and also Luca in his speech, about the value balancing alliance there that we was co-funded by SAP in 2019, and now has more than a dozen international companies, and is consulted by the 4 major auditing firms. Yeah, the main purpose of that is to create a global impact measurement and valuation standard for monetizing and disclosing impacts of corporate activities, but it's also providing guidance on how these impacts can be integrated into business steering. So, Mattia, do you want to share something more there?
Yes, pretty much the same. Actually, that the Value Balancing Alliance, it is methodologies of how to integrate sustainability in the decision making of the company, and they share learnings between the different companies. Part of the Value Balancing Alliance are 11 companies across different sectors and industries, and taxonomy, sustainable finance platform, corporate sustainability reporting directive, and all these standards and regulations are taken into consideration.
Yeah, that's right. And the very important thing is that we need clear standards to provide competitiveness, transparency, reliability, and also be able to compare and benchmark. It's very difficult right now.
Mm-hmm. And they had a session on that, right, Adriana? Integrating monetary impact valuation into decision making. Is that more? That's where you are taking some of these learnings?
Yeah, that's right. These are some main takeaways from that session. We also something very important is also the fact that we need a holistic impact of the value chain. By adding not only the monetary dimension, but also the environmental and the society impact of our companies. So we need to integrate all this into our decision making, into corporate at the corporate level.
Great. Yeah, and another session that I think was very important for the day, and I really want all of you now to mention that, your feeling about that, was the, again, product perspective, but this time they went into the core problem, which is, how do you measure, how do you act on the information? It was called Insight to Action, Holistic Steering for Impact Based on Value Creation with SAP Sustainability Management. Huge title for the session. And they started that session in a very interesting way, really saying, from their research, how executives feel about data. And as a matter of fact, only 21% of them are completely satisfied with the sustainability data that they have at hand. So it's a kind of a problem that they don't have that data information. And that was the motivation for them to work on hyper transparency, right? And building these brand new products that helps organizations to know the as is and the to be scenarios, making at the centerpiece of the strategy for climate action this very product. Anybody wants to talk about the sustainability management? What is that again?
CSRS,
Yes.
Corporate
Corporate
sustainability
Sustainability
reporting and
Reporting and
steering, I think.
There
Steering.
you go. That was missing in my mind. I think they have to make
Yeah,
easier names for those products.
We are the
very well,
master
yes.
of the of the acronyms at SAP
Oh my gosh.
with four
I
letters.
it's so hard to remember it, and I'm doing that 24/7. I'm start feeling that my brain is not suitable for the job because it's just some,
Imagine our
unbelievable
customers.
names. But yeah, can you tell me about that? There was a great demo there, right? So they were showing how that decision making process could happen in the system itself.
Yeah. So I think one of the great news is, as we mentioned at the beginning, is that this is now not done from scratch, but based on very solid pillars. And of course, one of them is our profitability and performance management, the APM. We mentioned about that. But when we talk about sustainability, we always talk about these three stages: is reporting, efficiency, and innovation. And really, steering is a key component. So imagine which are the right questions to ask with the sustainability topic. Is my NPS gonna go up or down? Is Am I gonna get some cheaper financing if I take these sustainability actions? How much is the cost of my money? Am I gonna sell more? Is my market share going up or down? Is my pricing gonna be affected? Are my margins gonna be different? Those are the business questions that are highly affected by sustainability. And only if you can really steer your business based on financial sustainability and customer data is when you can make the magic happen. But you need to start somewhere. And that's why we present products that help our customers grow in this direction. Of course, started with the compliance point of view with PAPM, but going to the steering component with CSRS. So for me, as I mentioned at the beginning, there were three big announcements: product footprint management, CSRS, and the responsible design and production, RDP. And this CSRS is really the way forward, starting with the APM today.
Great. So Mattia, can you talk to us about the topic of ESG and beyond? It was a great session as well, right?
Yes, it was a great session, and EY and new NYU Stern University took part in the discussion. So EY mentioned about the Sustainability 30 initiative, where 30 companies agreed to share best practices to protect value and create value. And they mentioned about the importance of the collaboration of the competitors. They mentioned that if you want to have an impact, you need to collaborate with everyone, even your competitors. They mentioned that we all need a better and quality reporting, that it's good to use ESG data, but usually companies they do not know how to collect the data. So this is where SAP and EY and technology companies can help. SAP, for example, and EY can create reporting capabilities on ESG metrics and give better and more accurate reporting of ESG metrics. They also mentioned about what is the starting point of a company. So how a company starts. Usually they start from the SDG goals. So they try to apply the SDG goals. And if they start with the emissions, they start with the scope 1, scope 2 emissions. But now it's, as also Carlos and Adriana mentioned, it's very important to calculate also the scope 3 emissions. And it's very important to collaborate with the supply chain, with your supply chain, so as to calculate the scope 3 emissions. And the last thing I want to mention is about the ROSI methodology. It is a methodology that was created from the NYU Stern University, and it is to return on sustainability investments. This methodology looks at 9 drivers as innovation, operational efficiency, employee engagement, retention, customer loyalty, risk mitigation. And they shared a very good example of an automotive company where they generated $285 million as a result of their waste reduction strategies. They weren't aware of that number because they did not connect their reduction strategy with the financial strategy. That's why they mentioned that it is really, really important for each company to create a sustainable strategy and not have separate ESG strategy and financial strategy.
Fantastic.
These are the main things that they discussed.
It makes a lot of sense. Now we are actually coming almost to the end of the day one. There are only 2 sessions to go. I want to go back to what I was showing before. This is the access you will have for the replays. So when you join the Sustainability Summit website, you will have access to this button here that gives you the replays. So basically you have the day 1 and the day 2. On day 1, if you click there, you have everything about climate action, all those sessions that we're covering in this discussion today, all the way from the part 1 that was enabling tomorrow starts today, the discussion on ideas for tomorrow that was climate action partnerships, and also you have the sustainability management and the announcements that happened there. So it was a very packed agenda for day 1, and we'll probably not have time to cover that today, but next week we will come to the circular economy, which was everything about the day 2. But going back to our discussion here, Carlos, one of the sessions was sustainable value creation with a focus on decarbonization pathways, another big name. So what happened there?
Well, we had PricewaterhouseCoopers and Deloitte joining us. And I think they make very good points on the case of PwC. They talk about the role of regulations and, of course, how these regulations are now pushed to the financial markets. I would just say here so important is SFDR, sustainability financial disclosure regulations. This new regulation that oblige all the financial market players to report, to be able to audit, to be able to track all their investments. This is so critical. So basically, this 1 trillion euros that the European Union is putting for the green economy, they want to make sure there are channeled through to the right projects, and no better players than the financial market players to report and make sure that that's the case. That was for PricewaterhouseCoopers. He was also telling them, telling us, let's not wait for the losses of tomorrow. Let's not wait for the losses that climate change is going to cause in all of us tomorrow. Let's do some investments today to avoid the losses of tomorrow. That was her call to action. In the case of Deloitte, they were just joining let's say this ask for better data, for better ambition, and for new partnerships. I think this was a very creative way to put that new partnerships are needed to tackle climate change, to tackle the sustainability challenge in organizations, and to demonstrate that you want to be a leader. It is not enough to say now, I want to be carbon neutral in 2020 something. Everybody's saying that. So if you want to become a leader, you have to go the extra mile and forge those partnerships.
Wonderful. And finally, the last session, IRIS, enabling our HSE vision of zero harm through a standard global reporting and learning solution. Oh my gosh, there's just so much that happened here. Adriana, can you cover that?
Yes, sure. So basically, our customer BP talked about this program that they have, which is called IRIS, and it's basically their instant management system for supporting BP's ambition for zero harm, which is built on SAP environment, health, and safety. So they basically needed a faster, simpler, and easier system. So what I did was to move to S4HANA, which was, by the way, a success, and they used then SAP environment, health, and safety to eliminate safety incidents. So IRIS is used for providing a single, reliable source of health, safety, and environment reports and performance insights on demand. By implementing that, they achieved lots of results. Yeah, so they were able to create 60% faster to create and submit incident reports. They had a 95% reduction in disparate data fields, providing a more consistent data set for analytics. Even more than that, they were able to do analytics 6 times faster. And also, they have seen that they need 86% less formal training for the users to use the system, which is great. So SAP Environment, Health, and Safety is another product that it's already on the market for many years now, and it's there for our customers to be used.
Wonderful. I think that's it for day one, everybody. Overall, what was your feeling? I mean, what is really the feeling you got out of this day one? Climate action, a big software company talking about all of that, making announcements, making commitments. Is this greenwashing, or this is really a needed support for those companies out there?
Well, I think we had several board members behind this event that has been highly promoted. We are launching products, and that means a lot of investment in terms of manpower, in terms of money investment, in terms of how much bandwidth we're giving to this. So it's not only enough to be exemplar. We have to be an enabler, and for that we have to have the right product services. But most importantly, the right conviction from our leaders to our employees that we are doing what we have to do to make the world run better. And this is exactly what sustainability is about.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. Look, I think we are really in the right direction here. I want to cover more of the event. I think the second day was about circular economy. It's a completely different ball game, and I think in the circular economy we might find opportunities for innovation, a little bit more responsible innovation, but still innovation, right? So what can we expect from next week on the circular economy sessions?
So we on next week we can see. Go, Carlos.
No, please.
Okay, so we will see how our customers are reimagining their business to be more circular and reuse materials, keep them in use as much as possible at their highest value, and of course eliminate waste by designing waste out of their production. And we will also see the announcements of the new product that we are developing right now, which is called Responsible Design and Production, RDP.
Great. So looks exciting. All right. So that's it for today then. I think together we get this, we understand what's happening, and we share with everybody. So if you're watching us right now, I urge you to share this session with as many people as you can. I believe that a lot of research and time is putting together to share with you only the information you need to make progress and make sustainability a big reality across everything that you do. With that, thank you so much, Carlos, Stamati, and Adriana, and I will see you again on the Green Live next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.